Hey, I'm Ben. I'm studying a passage of Scripture each week with a small group of guys and wanted to invite you to walk through this one with us. We don't have it all figured out. We're just stepping into the Word and growing together. Let's open it up this week and see what God has for us. This week, we're studying James 1, 2 through 5 and verse 12. So far in James, we've looked at obedience and speech, how faith shows up in what we do and say. But James now moves into something every man eventually faces: trials. When life becomes difficult, faith is revealed. Let's read James 1, 2 through 5 and verse 12 slowly and notice the progression of trial and testing that produces patience and then finally maturity. My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. But let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking nothing. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given to him. And in verse 12 it says, "Blessed is the man who endures temptation, for when he has been approved, he will receive the crown of life which the Lord has promised to those who love him." In the book of James, he is writing to believers scattered across the Roman world because of persecution and hardship. They were facing instability, opposition, and uncertainty. James reframes their situation. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening?" he asks, "What is God producing through it?" Trials become a place where faith grows stronger. In verse 2, James says that we should count it all joy. So James isn't saying that trials are enjoyable. He's calling believers to consider them differently. Joy here is not an emotion, but a perspective. It's not being happy, but it's changing the way you think about what's going on. The believers see trials as a part of God's work when maturity happens. In verse 3, testing produces patience. We see that testing reveals whether faith is genuine. Just as pressure refines metal, difficulty refines faith. So patience means endurance. It's the ability for people to remain faithful over time. Verse 4 is talking about maturity through endurance. James says that steadfastness or patience must have its full effect. Growth does take time, and you see that even when we looked at Psalm 1, where it says that the fruit takes time and it comes in its season. So trials develop spiritual maturity. The goal is not comfort, but the goal is wholeness and maturity. In verse 5, it talks about wisdom in the middle of trials. When we face difficulty, we often lack clarity, but James encourages believers to ask God for wisdom, and he says that God gives generously without shaming us. So trials are not meant to drive us away from God, but toward him. In verse 12, the promise, James returns to the same theme of endurance. The man who remains steadfast receives the crown of life. This points to an eternal reward. So faithfulness in difficulty matters because it reveals genuine love for God. This week, as we dig into this passage of Scripture, use these questions for reflection. How do I typically respond when difficulty appears? Do I get frustrated? Do trials push me toward God or away from him? Am I asking God for wisdom in my current situation? And where might God be producing endurance in my life right now? Growth often happens slowly through pressure. So this week, let's stay with James 1, 2 through 5 and verse 12. Notice how James connects trials to maturity and wisdom. Let's ask God to reveal what He may be shaping through our current challenges. That's the starting point for this week. If you want to actually walk this out with other guys, come join us in the Iron Forge Fellowship. The link is in the description below. And if this kind of study is helpful to you, like and subscribe to the channel and come back each week. We're just getting started.